Hello and welcome to my small corner of the internet. Well, small is probably still an exaggeration, but to my place of the internet, yeah. Welcome to my channel and welcome to sim.bc. Not simbc, as I've heard some say. Not simbc, not sim.c. It's sim.bc. And yeah, that's totally how you say it, even though some of you people out there are going to be like, you don't say the dot. I mean, hell to the nah. Can you really just throw that out from there? And I'm like, no, structure, consistency. That's how we roll. That's what we do, right? So hello and welcome to sim.bc is what I'm trying to say. And it's 16:58 on a Saturday. And what does Saturday mean to all of you out there? To all of you folks? You might be sitting there, Saturday. Well, it's the day that the Lord finished the world or whatever, depending on what, which school of life you're walking, right? But most of you out there will be thinking, Saturday! Saturday, that's what the S stands for. In the what? In the what? Can I hear what? In the SNR! That's right, it's Saturday News Recap. It's the internet's and YouTube's favorite show here for you all, where I go through the different news that has happened over the last week. And today, I might just say, teasing it a little bit, yeah, there will be some things that are really controversial, so just bear with me. One can argue that news are always controversial, but these are going to be the ones that are, usually played close to heart for some people. And they're going to be presented in such a manner that I will be discussing them more the further we get, so to say. So I'd say, without any further ado, let's get into the news of this week. So I will start off by mentioning the one thing that everybody do know of, right? And that is the Facebook phenomenon that has happened. No matter how many good memes has been spawning out of this occasion when Mark Zuckerberg is sitting in court and just, be looking and trying to explain the internet to a bunch of old people, or we can say, respectable professionals within the respective fields of law, however you want to phrase that, right? That it spawned lots of memes, but what is it that he's actually in for? And that entire situation, at least as far as I've been able to conduct my research, is that Facebook has apparently been giving out, or it has been accessed through Facebook's databases, people's different personal information. So that the third party, just a third party really, in general, has been able to access lots of people's different privacy settings. Public, their private profile and all of the information that comes along with that. So that has spawned into, and while I don't think that is such an interesting news piece in and within itself, even though it's all the rage out there on the internet right now, so you can probably find that anywhere, what I think is kind of interesting is the discussion that it has spawned, or rather the consequences that has been spawned from this. Probably not on by this specific occasion in isolation, but based on many of these different, what should we say, should we really call it that word, should we, tragedies? No, but like, what's that word, it's called something when you're exposed, it's called scandals. Yeah. Wow, that just took me a minute. All of these different scandals that has happened over the last couple of years, right, with the introduction to the internet. What has spawned here is what I want to focus on, because in the EU, things that are going to affect me, there is effectively coming out a new law saying that I believe preliminary is stating into power by the 4th of May or late April, or it's late April, early May, somewhere along those lines, which basically says that all different companies in the EU, so that means Sweden as well, where I am currently occupied, it basically means that all of these different countries, all of these different companies can't actually withhold your information from you. That sounds strange. Let me rephrase that. That means that all of these different companies that do have the access to your personal information, they don't, by law, have a reason for that, right? So, they have their reasons, but they can't, by law, withhold this information. So if you can call up now, you can now call up any company in the EU that you believe and that you think have your own personal information and say, drop that, delete that, I don't want you to have it anymore. which is kind of interesting, puts more power in the hands of the consumers. So that's the interesting aspect that has been spun out from this Facebook phenomenon that has happened, as I said, together with other scandals the last, 10 to 20 years when the internet has been in effect. All of these have basically led to this change, which I think is kind of interesting. But we're moving on, because you've probably seen that one all over the internet already, as I said. So we're gonna move on to the next one, which I kind of have been discussing the entire week. So if you have been keeping up with all the daily videos, you're probably gonna know exactly what this piece of news is. And that is the religious influence in the legal systems of the world, and probably not in the entirety of the world, in all places of the world, because at some places it already does exist. And if you want to see my standpoint on it all, well, you can go and go through 40 minutes of videos, or I can just tell you that I think that is ludicrous, to say the least. It's really mind-boggling. Yet again, as I've been stating in those other videos, to create some context, I'm a Swede, I'm 22 years old, I'm a male, I don't know what more I can say, but I appeal to logic, not really religion. I'm not that religious, so maybe I'm not enlightened enough to understand why religion should be put into power with any form of legitimacy, right? That could be the case, that I just can't see the reason as to why. And if that is the case, I invite you to try in the comment section below to just try and persuade me, Try to convince me as of why this is a good thing. But in my opinion, it's ludicrous, it's mind-boggling, So I've been looking through some different news pieces, mainly from the BBC, where we're talking about that, there has actually been some religious influences, tried to be religious influences at least, in the in the UK, and that has spilled over as well. So in Belgium, they apparently try to push this idea. It's a certain religion right now, but I don't think that is that important. I think that any religion at all that tries to get some legitimized power in the form of a legal system that is backed up by society is ludicrous and weird and should be avoided. And just to be straight here, I'm not just talking religion as the sole factor of what is wrong in this instant, I'm trying to say as well that all of these schools of walks of lives or schools of thought where you can have principles that are not backed up by anything, which is the one thing in life that I truly hate, it shouldn't have any form of legitimized legal power. The legal system should be separate to as much as it can in order to serve society in the best possible way, or at least that's my stand on it. I'd say that's kind of a fair stance on the topic. Some people tend to disagree, apparently, because this is such a big thing. But yet again, it's not only religious things that I think shouldn't influence the legal system, it's also political stuff, if like a political party had the power to actually affect the legal system, then even though we were a democracy right now, in Sweden at least, we could easily turn into a effective dictatorship, even though we would be classified as a democracy, if one political party would have the legal power over the others, because they could rule in different scenarios with different cases. They can rule in favor of those who have the same political views as they do. Which is the same with religion, by the way. So if we want to have religious freedom, then we shouldn't intertwine one specific religion with the legal system. Something that I actually didn't take up in the videos, but something that I thought of just now. Why? Well, because it's obvious when you think about it now, isn't it? And even though that is one problem, I'd say, no, it doesn't matter. Even if all the different religions could get in there and be represented in the legal system and have a legitimized power, I'd still say that people who try to defend something undefendable, so to say, someone who try to defend, when I argue with them at least, or when some people argue with them, does God exist, and they're only saying that, well, yes, and they don't have any proof for it. If they could have that stance, right, I can't really prove it, but I feel it. Now, is that something that you want to have in court? Someone you're standing there saying, you're a criminal now. Why? Well, because I kind of have a feeling that is why it is, right? I don't have any concrete proof, but I feel that you're guilty. Now, you might speak for yourself, and this is obviously a very generalized statement, I'm not saying that all religious people are like that, and it's probably very few of them, and most people would probably be really good to have in the legal system, but still, we would invite that one occasional nutjob who would have that, train of thought, that perspective on life, which I think is we can't have that risk. Same idea of what my, policy on guns is, gun control, is that if there is one maniac, one lunatic that could go out and do horrendous acts, don't let that person have the possibility of having a gun in their hand. I mean, it's the same way, it's the same thing in my opinion, It's this What's the worst case scenario? Wow, the worst case scenario is really, really bad. Should we introduce that so that it could happen then? Probably not. Wow, if you want more of my thought about that, you can go check out the videos from this week, because that's basically what all this week has been about in my channel, at least. Something else then that has been taken up as well in Swedish media, by the way, in Aftonbladet. Yeah, for all of you out there who know what that is, which is probably going to be a very limited amount of people. They've been taking up this. It's not matter. You know, the news piece as it is isn't that interesting in my opinion. Just like the Facebook incident. I mean, there are companies gonna do like missteps all the time, so that's not that interesting, but the discussion that is raised based on that case is interesting. Same goes for this kind of news piece. So they're basically discussing that we have some immigration in Sweden. I think I got it right. Immigration. No, yeah, we got some immigration. Sorry. We have some immigration in Sweden, that people are coming here, at least. That's what I'm trying to say, yeah? Even if I didn't get the terminology straight. That we have people coming from abroad and trying to settle down in Sweden. And that as Swedes, you know, the general Swede, I want to be pretty open about it. Yeah, I want to be pretty open about people coming here. I want to invite them. I'm going to be like, all for it. Come, people. The more we are, the better our workforce is. Am I right? And it's better to have people come here that are like 20, 30, 40 years old with a bit of experience, work experience, than nurturing a new child that just happened to be a Swede and bring them up to 20 years old. It's better to actually, you know, just import the workforce. Now, that's not obviously how I view immigrants, not only as an accessible workforce, but you know, who does? Apparently in Sweden nobody does, because well, the education that they do have doesn't hold in Sweden, so probably nobody in Sweden sees them as just workforce, because if they did, they would probably be utilized in a different way anyway. and I know that is based on different standards, and that the education doesn't hold those different standards according to Swedish laws and according to EU, and there are some things that it doesn't uphold. Anyway, that's spinning off to a different topic. What I'm trying to focus on is the idea that as a Swede, I want to say to everybody, like, come on, come in, come along. We can all agree. Yeah, we can all be friends. And now, to put a bit of context on it, I'm not one of these people who tends to hold traditions very close to heart. In my mind, I'm more like, I'm open to change. I think change is good. I rather change for change's sake than just, you know, be as it always been. Why? Well, because even though you might not change something to begin with, and that's obviously a really harsh statement, there are obviously scenarios where I wouldn't. But that's just the person I am, right? I would rather change for change's sake. So for me personally, tradition and stuff isn't that big of a deal. But what they did take up in this article is that people like, you know, Swedes in general, want to get all the people in. We want to introduce them, we want to welcome them, and we want to make sure that they are very settled. We want to make sure that they're very empowered, so to say, in what they want to do. We want to have this religious freedom. We want to have cultural freedom. You know, no matter who you are, you should be able to be, you know, whoever you are. And if something is offensive, we should take that away. Now, isn't that right? But the problem that is taken up is the problem with... what was it now? I probably can't translate this correctly. But the problem of integration and solidarity? Anyway, the entire idea was the combination, or the problem with integrating people into your society. Wow, my brain just broke. Integrating people of different schools of life, different walks of life, different cultures and different religions into your society, while still maintaining the traditions that you do have. And a topic that then has come up is that sometimes people from both sides, not just one particular side of this argument, feel that the things that has been either introduced or the things that has been there for a very long time is offensive to the people who are either immigrated or the people who have been there and looking at the immigrants and saying what they're doing is offensive. So it strikes this balance, right? And this problem imbalance of How should we deal with this situation? I mean, sure, we want to be open, and we want to have, give people as much freedom as they can, but simultaneously, in my opinion, for some stupid reason, we still want to hold on to our traditions and be very, very Swedish, simultaneously as we try to open up our society to new people. And when, there is proportional amounts of people, a large proportional amount of people that want to introduce their tradition that they took from their home country or from their part of the world, so to say. People in Sweden tend to be very defensive and saying like, no, not really, that's not what I want to do. And I don't think this is just the case for Sweden. I've also seen it in different countries when I've been traveling and when I've been studying abroad, especially in France. Seeing people saying that, well, it's all good that you guys are who you are as long as you keep it to yourselves, yeah. And that tends to be what the argument boils down to and breaks down to, which is not a good thing. Not a good thing at all. I mean, just imagine coming to a country and everybody's like, you can be whoever you are, you can do whatever you want to do, and you're like, yes, finally, that's what I couldn't do that in my previous country. That's why I came here. And they're saying like, yeah, but we're all going to behave in a certain way, and that is going to be considered good. And even though you can be free to do whatever you want, please keep that in your home where nobody can see you do it. And they're like, but the things we do isn't any different from the things you do. And they're like, no, exactly. But what we do, we all know and we've all seen before. And rather than trying to integrate your things into society, oh wow, I got that word right. Rather than to integrate your things in with our traditions, we would rather that you just don't, so that we can still have you here and say that we're very good people that integrate you into our society, while we still can have, you know, our own little individualistic view of what traditions and right and wrong actually supposed to be. Kind of the same thing as when you have a management team and you try to integrate people with you try to integrate diversity to get a more, well, diverse workforce, to be honest, right? To be blunt about it. So that you can get more perspectives, but simultaneously when you bring them in, you say that it's nice that you're here and that you're a different person from me, you have a different background from me. But the way that I'm doing things, that's the way we're gonna do things. So you just have to adapt to what I'm doing, yeah? And whatever opinions you have, probably gonna change them to fit mine. But we have diversity, because now we at least look a bit different. It's so stupid. And this is kind of the balance issue that has come up in Sweden. At least in this article, right? I'm not gonna say that it's a general problem, right? But based on my own observations, I would tend to say that it's kind of a universal problem at the moment, based on that we have so much emigration and immigration going on worldwide on such an easy scale. It's so easy to go to a different country and just live there. Of course, depending on what visas you do have and what your passport is. And I assume that since I'm a Swede, I can't really say that it's easy, because we have one of the best passports in the world. It doesn't really matter. But for me, it's really easy to just go to another country. So that's the perception I have, right? And I do understand that there are some limitations to other people. Anyway, we're going to discuss as well, and let me just finish on that, because I'm probably going to allocate an entire video to that, because I felt like, wow, I need to really talk off my entire idea of what I think about that topic, especially since all the dead time when me is trying to figure out what integrated sounded like, and what solidarity actually meant in isolation or whatever. There has been, and I see we have 140 left, I've seen that one thing that's happened over the last week in relation to my channels, let's say, during this channel, because now we're taking that news piece that isn't international, it's just concerning us, right? And the things that I've been introducing over the last week is the soft cuts, I call them, because someone was just saying like, oh dude, you have so many hard cuts, you know, when you change from one view here to here, it's just hard. So what I've been doing is I've been changing, instead of doing this to this, we now have this to this. Now, that's going to be a pain in the ass for me in the editorial process, but I guess you saw the difference, that it's a bit smoother, yeah. So that's what's been happening this week at the channel, otherwise there hasn't been that many changes, actually. So now I'm going to say goodbye to you all, not just because my DSLR is saying, like, turn off the camera because there's only like 10 minutes left. And well, we have actually tended to drift it more towards like 15 to 20 minute videos as well this week. Wow, it's been a ludicrously amount of discussion going on. Wow, for me. But have a nice one, mates, because now I'm going to take out my laundry. Yeah, it's gonna be an awesome day. Have a nice one, mates, and I'll see you tomorrow, probably with one of the things that we discussed right now, because I want to discuss it a bit more. Probably the last one. Have a nice one, mates. See you tomorrow.